everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have just over 300 listeners on the podcast at this point in time, which has been a really big milestone for me because I have so few episodes, honestly. And for me, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to have so many people that are tuning into these messages that I feel inspired and pulled to put together. So this current way of working has been working. This sort of feeling of I'm going to speak only when inspired. I'm going to record in the moment and not be too produced, not be too rehearsed. That seems to be working out really well. So I'm just going to keep leveraging that. So today's topic centers around an epiphany that I had a few weeks ago because it's really a loaded topic and something that a lot of people really struggle with. And my advice, if anyone, came to me with my experience in the modeling industry and beauty pageants and my experience working a somewhat, at times, very demanding corporate job where my schedule is very packed, triple booked, the whole nine, kind of how do I fit fitness, how do I fit nutrition, how do I make these things happen for myself, and what are my own guidelines? It's something I'm asked often. And I hesitate to be prescriptive because you're not me, I'm not you, we're all unique. But if anyone is really struggling with sort of this concept of what should I be doing, what can I be doing, what shouldn't I be doing, I don't think it has to be that problematic and challenging. It doesn't have to be something that we overthink. And an interesting thought came to me and it felt really right. And in those moments where something channels to us from someplace wiser, more profound, where we know that what we're getting is this really beautiful piece of wisdom. I kind of got this thought a few weeks ago and I've been ruminating on it ever since, that really the North Star, the space we should seek to operate in, and there's other, you could say, well, this is just balance, but it's bigger than that and deeper than that if I phrase it in the way that I got during sort of this epiphany. So the epiphany for me was always love and respect and cherish the body that you have from healthy choices, from making loving choices for your body. Because I know a lot of people like to define, redefine, overdefine the term healthy. It really comes down to if you go with that maxim and that guideline and you say, I'm going to make loving choices every day. I'm going to give myself time wherever I am, whatever my current health and wellness space looks like. I'm going to give myself time to acclimate to only loving choices. And I'm going to see how that looks on me after 90 days, 180 days, an entire year, after some duration that at least gives you and your body and your mind and your spirit and your self-esteem to acclimate to what loving choices beget you. After that time, you're going to cultivate actively more love, more acceptance, more contentment, more love, traveling up the spectrum of high vibrational feelings to the point where you're just in love with the body that your loving choices gave you, that only loving choices gave you. And what I mean by that is we are fed so many messages about sort of this, it's a spectrum really, but we're fed so many different messages about cutting this out, restricting here, limit here, blah, 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 or violently and vehemently reject what we call societal beauty standards, which many of them are aligned with just being healthy and being in balance. And we at times have a blowback to the notion of being healthy and move into a space of hedonism, overindulgence, convenience, and quite frankly, poisoning our bodies with really processed foods, with portions that are much larger than we actually require, with turning to food as an emotional security blanket and a coping mechanism. They're two different spaces, two different extremes here, two different poles that neither of them are actually healthy. And the true healthy space is the balance between them, where you're not robbing your body of any nutrition, but you're also not leaving yourself in this space where hedonism and being gluttonous and eating your feelings is taking over, because that's also not healthy. Both of these are seeing food through an emotional lens and making food more than it is or less than it is, which is fuel for your body, fuel for your goals, fuel for your day. And I think if we don't overcomplicate it or don't overthink it, we instead go with sort of, is this the loving decision for my body? Is overeating, eating more than I know that I need, is this a loving decision for my body? And some days the answer is yes. Some days it's about eating all of the sundae. Some days it's about enjoying the piece of pizza, even if it's X amount of calories. It's about losing yourself in it. It's not about doing that every day, though. It's not about doing that every other day. It's not about doing that on a regular basis. It's about thinking about in the moment, am I doing this from a loving place? Am I doing this from a place of contempt or self-loathe for my body? Am I doing this because I think my mood will be improved, and this allows me, tucking into this food allows me to avoid problematic emotions and allows me to soothe without actually piecing through my emotional state? Could I be journaling? Could I be meditating? Could I be doing something else other than just eating my feelings? And the flip side of that is it a loving decision to count calories meticulously and be obsessed with carbs and fat and not eating them and eat low fat this and low sugar that? That's also not healthy. That's also not a loving choice. At certain points, that starts to become this militant punishment of your body, and how dare it be hungry. That's not a loving decision. I think we absolutely have to, as women, move to a space of not overcomplicating it beyond just what feeling is propelling, what feeling towards myself, what feeling towards my body is propelling me to make this choice. If you're in line at a cafe and you want some fresh fruit because you want something sweet and something full of life, that's not a wrong choice. That's absolutely moving from a place of love and care for your body, and knowing those cycles and knowing how to respond to your biological impulses and the biological cycles of your body from a place of love, not contempt, not punishment, not restriction, not overindulgence. All of these extremes are bad, and I think that these extremes are a lot closer to center than we want to believe. And what I mean by that is, at times we really swear up and down we're being balanced, we're being focused, but we do a little bit of digging within and we realize we're actually not centered in loving thought and loving action. We're actually stepping into, like, I had a bad day, I need to eat this chocolate, I need to eat more than enough chocolate. And then you reach a point where you don't feel well thereafter because your blood sugar has spiked and then crashed. And if you're really honest with yourself, it wasn't a loving decision. There are other times where the loving decision would have been to enjoy a piece of really well-crafted chocolate, and instead you withhold from yourself because you punish yourself for a few days ago missing a workout. All of these things, be it restrictive, these things that we think we're like compensating by doing, it's a form of punishment, which again is not coming from a loving place. Like, there's so many, we can drive ourselves crazy with so many rules, so many counter correspondences where we say, if I did this 3 days ago, then, like, there's so much accounting that women especially do to make it okay to eat this or not eat that, or go to this yoga class because it's hot yoga and it burns more calories. And you're really just taking your body on this almost, I think of it like dog shows, how dogs do those intense, like, fast, peppy runs through an obstacle course. You're really taking yourself through an obstacle course of unloving decisions. If you just recenter and take it back to, what am I moving from? And is it a loving decision? Is it a loving choice? if you stack up 100 of those decisions where you're moving from a loving place, you're going to the workout that you love and enjoy, you're getting in X amount of steps per day and indulging in conscious movement and just enjoying being in your body, enjoying what it can do. And you're eating from a place of choosing to fuel yourself from a place of loving intention and not being too restrictive and not being too indulgent, and you're staying in the space that you need to be, and you're being adventurous with what you eat, and you're not creating rules for yourself, and you're just stopping when you're full, and you're knowing what it's like to balance enough water that your body needs with your caffeine intake, with your food intake, with all these things, and you're taking these loving decisions and loving choices. When you stack up 100 of those, you'll be shocked and surprised about how much healthier you look and how much better you feel. So my advice for anyone who's trying to navigate life in their body and making themselves crazy with all of these rules and the do this, don't do that, skip the carbs, no dinner after 7 p.m., which is a little extreme, no white rice, only brown rice, like all of these rules, all of these things. Do whatever feels like a loving intention for your body. And that's different for everyone every day. For some people, the loving thing to do is to eat the balanced meal that gives them all the nutrients and vitamins that they need. For another person, the loving choice that day might be having an extra piece of chocolate because they reached some sort of milestone, or they're going to a harder workout class later today, and the loving choice is, I deserve this. I got a bit of a headache. It's that time of the month. It's whatever the case may be. And like, eat the chocolate. Make the loving choice. It's just it's funny that something that's so blanketed and so canvas in approach can actually get you out of all of the overthinking and the treating it like some risk board where you have to come up with some intense strategy to navigate it. If you really just take it back to the basics and you're honest with yourself about what energy, what emotion is behind each of your choices, what is the intentionality behind each choice, you will get yourself out of so many stuck places. You will avoid so much shame, guilt, worry, whatever the case may be. And I am not speaking from a place of ever having had an eating disorder or ever having had weight management issues. So I'm not trying to be a dietary professional or a psychologist that's trying to treat people. I'm never doing that. This is simply lifestyle advice for how to navigate this in your life. And if it was an epiphany for you, like it was an epiphany for me, I hope that you walk away from listening to this episode with something meaningful that you can repeat to yourself, in that you absolutely must and should and will love and respect and cherish the body that you have that came from loving choices.